First shots with the Witt machine and tool Mod-1. This is a 9mm suppressor, so of course I have it on my PCC, the Aero Precision EPC9. This is also the first time I'm going to be shooting it with this Optic riser, so I hope I have a decent zero, but we'll see how it goes today. Well, that was awkward. Welcome back to the channel. You're watching Sawtooth Tactical, and yeah, my Optic fell off in the first mag out at the range, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is about this suppressor. This is the Witt machine and tool Mod-1, and it's their relatively new line of suppressors. I've had their Dirty 30 on my 300 Blackout for a couple years now. Really love that suppressor for what it is. Today we're going to be talking all about the Mod-1 because it does have some major differences from their original line of, extra compact suppressors. It is full auto rated. It'll run anything that'll fit down that bore, rifle or pistol ammo. And honestly, I'm pretty dang impressed. These are about the most affordable suppressors you could buy. And this one is actually feature packed as well. So if you like that kind of content, make sure you're subscribed and let's begin. That was interesting. I literally lost my Optic within the first mag here. So we're gonna shoot without an Optic today, but that's fine. I'm gonna put some rounds just into the dirt, see how this suppressor sounds. I've been on a mission lately to suppress all of my rifle platform firearms. And so that means, I already had the 30 cal can for the 300 Blackout. That was my first suppressor. It took 11 months to get that suppressor approved, but that was also before everybody started getting really fast approvals a couple months ago. So I just recently got an OCL Polonium K for my 5.56 guns. Stay tuned for that video next week. This week, we are talking the Witt machine Mod-1. This is a 9mm suppressor. Specifically, I wanted a 9mm can for this AR9 build. And if you guys remember the video I did a while back about my gun goals for 2024, a big one was that I wanted to finish improving, setting up, modifying, customizing the guns that I currently owned more than just buying new guns. And so this is the last piece that I was waiting on for this AR9. The previous last piece was this Optic riser from Geisley. And as you saw in the opening clip there, the opening shooting clip, my Optic literally rolled off the gun before I could even get through a magazine. So we'll briefly talk about that. In fact, we'll talk about it right now. That's what I get for not using Loctite. So this is just a Sig Romeo 5. I've had this red dot forever. In fact, this was the first Optic that I ever bought. It used to be on my 16-inch 5.56 AR. That gun now has an LPVO with an offset red dot. But I'm running it on my AR9, and this thing is just, it's like it's freaking practically bulletproof. I've used it a ton. It's been on multiple guns. It's never given me an issue. But it comes on this kind of low mount, and I wanted to sit it up a little higher. I've been enjoying my optics on risers these days. So I got the Geisley mount for it. But my dumbass, instead of using the screws that came with it from Geisley, I thought it would be a good idea to reuse the screws that came with the Optic from Sig that had been on this mount. And I didn't use Loctite because they already had like blue Loctite on them when I took them out of that mount. Obviously that didn't last long. Now they've got the Geisley screws in them. They're torqued correctly. They've got Loctite. Torque your screws, use Loctite. This is a good reason why. But what it did do, it gave me a reason to, dump some rounds just into the dirt instead of at the targets, which gave me a better idea of how the suppressor sounded. I'd like to thank Aura, which is the sponsor of this video. You know, firearms can protect you and your family and your household from a lot of threats and provide you with a certain amount of security. Well, Aura can provide you with security from the things that you don't see and protect you from those threats. I've been using it for a few months now. When I first got it, I Googled my name and there was a lot of stuff that came up. And then I signed up with Aura and I watched as they took each and every one of those things off of the internet so that my information wasn't out there anymore. They do a lot of things, including identity and credit monitoring, password manager, antivirus protection. They have a VPN, home title monitoring, and then the big one is data broker removal. As you guys probably already know, scammers are a huge part of life now, which really sucks. But the way that they get your information is from data brokers. And Aura goes out there and they find those data brokers that have your information and they submit opt-out requests on your behalf, removing your information off the internet so that scammers don't have access to you anymore. The big thing that it's helped me with is I don't get spam calls anymore, and I've noticed that over these last few months that I've been using it. I just have stopped getting spam calls. If you want to support this channel, Sawtooth Tactical, the best way to do that is to sign up for Aura. You get 2 weeks free if you use my link, which is aura.com/sawtooth-tactical. And then it's only $12 a month for all of those things that I listed earlier. I really appreciate what Aura has done for the channel. And I appreciate that they sponsor firearms related channels. It says a lot to me about who they are. I value my privacy and I also value yours. So how does it sound? It actually sounds pretty dang good, especially for its size. And you have to remember that when it comes to K cans, or just what Witt Machine calls ultra compact suppressors. So the Dirty 30 here is extremely short. And because of that, it's not the quietest 30 cal can in the world, but it is hearing safe, especially with subsonic ammo. Well, I didn't expect this to be the quietest can in the world either, and I was very pleasantly surprised. For one thing, the Mod-1 here does have a QD system. It's the reared-in quick detach system here. And because of that, it actually adds some volume to the suppressor, which I think really helps. So in order for them to add this QD system here, they had to make the suppressor longer. They needed a threaded portion here for the reared-in mount to thread into. And then you have the mount itself. And then because of that, you also have this reared-in muzzle brake on here, which looked really pretty when I got it. That's just after 100 rounds. But that itself acts as a sacrificial baffle inside there. And so all of those things combined, I think, make it more effective. I ran a mag with no hearing protection on just to see how it was. Now, yeah, you can run a suppressor without hearing protection, but I generally wear ears anyway because I shoot a lot, I'm getting older, and I just don't want to lose my hearing. But with a new suppressor, I had to see what it was going to sound like. So I pulled the ears off for a mag, and it was pretty comfortable, honestly. I had no ringing in my ears, and I was kind of mag dumping, shooting pretty fast, and it sounded really good. So that was my biggest concern going into another very small can. And honestly, it sounds really good for its size. And that's important to me. Part of the whole point of this build, as well as my 300 Blackout here, was to keep a very compact overall package. And so adding, a huge suppressor on the end kind of defeats the purpose of having an 8-inch barrel, right? This doesn't add a whole lot of length to the overall package. I mean, honestly, the gun still feels pretty much the same to me. Obviously, there is some more weight on the end. These are very well-built suppressors. They're thick steel. There is going to be a little bit of weight there. But when it's on something this short, that weight doesn't seem to bother me one bit. Let's try it without the ear pro here. See how she sounds. Oh, it's not bad. Higgins at Witt Machine sent this can out to the channel to try out. Basically what he said, beat it like it owes you money. And so we're going to do that. So far, I've put 100 rounds through it. One quick range day. In fact, I did it on my lunch break from work. I ran out there, and that's why I kept shooting without the optic. I wasn't about to go home, find some other screws, remount my optic, and get back out there. Luckily, what I was doing was I was testing a suppressor, and so I always care how accurate I am, but honestly, shooting without the optic gave me an opportunity to, like I said, just shoot some into the dirt, but also try some stuff that I don't really ever do, like hip firing. And I honestly, surprisingly, hit the steel a bunch of times doing that. I was actually surprised how well I was able to shoot without an optic. Now, it was definitely more difficult, and I had to kind of find where I was holding it in order to make hits, but I was able to make hits. Again, not the point of the video. The point of this video is this suppressor. Now, it is full auto rated, and the way Higgins put it, it's rated for anything that'll fit down the bore, and 9mm is a pretty big bore. Most rifle rounds will fit down a 9mm bore. At least the rifle rounds that I use, 7.62 by 39, 300 blackout, 5.56, all of those will fit down a 9mm bore. So you can use this on things other than a 9mm gun, although the whole reason I wanted it was for a 9mm gun. My other suppressors have smaller bores, 30 cal, 22 cal for the 5.56 guns. And so this is the biggest bore of any suppressor that I currently own at this point. And, we'll see. We might try it out with other stuff at some point. But it's not only rated for pistols, is my point. This suppressor can be used with anything. And like I said, full auto rated, no barrel length restrictions. It's a tank of a can. And now that it has the reared-in QD system, I think that it is a much more solid contender in the marketplace. And the reason I say that, now, I have no problem with the direct thread of my Dirty 30 from Witt Machine. The biggest reason is because that can lives on that gun. I specifically got it for that 300 blackout build. So since we don't have an optic, let's try some hip firing, see if we can hit the target. Suppressor sounds good. The 9mm suppressor, well, it is specifically for this build as well, but it's nice to have modularity. So my 5.56 suppressor, that one I'm using the Silencer Co. ASR QD system. Well, I put ASR muzzle devices on both of my other 5.56 guns, and now I can move that can between any of them very easily. I can do that with this as well and put it on, because it'll work on anything that fits down the bore. I can put reared-in mounts on whatever I want and run this suppressor. And that makes it a very useful tool. What I used to have on this gun was this muzzle brake right here. It's a VG6 Gamma. It's a great muzzle brake. But suppressed is just so much better. Besides sound signature, a suppressor suppresses flash signature, but it also helps with recoil and muzzle rise for a couple reasons. Well, for one, I know I just keep taking this on and off, but there is a muzzle brake underneath this suppressor, and that muzzle brake is timed. So even if I wasn't running the suppressor, it would still help control recoil, probably about as effective as this VG6 one. But suppressors themselves help with recoil, and they do that in two ways. The main thing that a suppressor does is that the hot expanding gases behind the round have room to expand and cool within the suppressor before they leave the muzzle, and that reduces that shock wave and that reduces recoil. I probably should have used some Loctite mounting the Optic on the new mount here. But even without an Optic today, it's a beautiful day. We're shooting suppressed 147 grain 9mm AAC ammo out of the Witt machine and tool Mod-1. And it's just so much more satisfying to have this PCC suppressed like it always was meant to be. The other way that they reduce recoil is that they just added weight on the end of your gun. It's kind of like having a bull barrel in a 2011. That added weight reduces muzzle rise and felt recoil. And it really does. So I already felt like this gun was a soft shooting gun, but you add this suppressor on the end of it and it's just a pussycat. It really makes it a joy to shoot. And that's the biggest thing about suppressors, is they really do just make all your guns feel more satisfying to shoot. So that's fun when it comes to recreation at the range, having a good time, not blowing out your hearing. But it's also tactically really good. You can get shots off faster. Now, I couldn't really test that yet today with no Optic, trying to get fast, accurate shots off. I kind of just played around once my Optic fell off. But it's the first day with this suppressor, and there will be more videos to come as we put it through its paces. But because you have less recoil, less sound, concussion, all that, you can shoot faster and more accurate generally with a suppressor. Now, again, because of the Optic situation, I wasn't able to test if there's a point of impact shift with this yet, but from the research that I've done, if there is, it's very, very minimal with this suppressor. I didn't notice any point of impact shift with my Dirty 30, if that's any indication. So how do I feel about this can so far? I'm actually very happy with it. And the thing with these cans is they're very affordable. So when Witt Machine first came out with their compact or ultra compact line of suppressors, their big thing was they wanted the masses to be able to afford suppressors. Suppressors are very expensive. And they wanted it to cost $500 all in. That includes the tax stamp. So this Dirty 30 here costs $300, and then you have a $200 tax stamp. Well, they couldn't keep the price exactly like that with adding a Reardon QD system and all that. But they only added $100 to the price. You can get this suppressor for $400. $400 for a QD, full auto rated, no barrel length restriction suppressor that I can run without hearing protection and be perfectly comfortable. I think that is a hell of a deal. Now, of course, we'll continue to test it and see how it goes. And in fact, one thing that I really want to do, I want to test this suppressor against my other Witt Machine can, the Dirty 30, and see which one is quieter. Now, I was running 140 grain subsonics through this the other day when I took this out to try it out. And I think that it was quieter than my 300 Blackout with subsonic 300 Blackouts. So we're going to see. I'm going to have to test them side by side with no hearing protection to find out if that's true. But I was pleasantly surprised with how this thing sounded. I got to say, for the size, pretty happy with this can. Look forward to more suppressor related content coming up very soon. Like I said, I want to test this one against the Dirty 30 and just compare them as far as noise, recoil. I know I'm comparing a pistol round versus a rifle round. We'll take that into consideration. But besides that, I also just, the same day this was approved, I got an Otter Creek Labs Polonium K. And so that's going to go on all my 5.56 guns, and we'll be testing that one out next week. So we've got a lot of good suppressor stuff coming. It seems like you guys really like the suppressor content, and so I want to give the people what they want. I also want to thank Higgins at Witt Machine and Tool for sending me this can out. I really do appreciate it. The funny thing about government tyranny, though, is you get a free suppressor, still costs you a bunch of money because you got to do a tax stamp and a transfer fee and all that. But I really appreciate that Witt Machine actually sent this out to the channel. Honestly, it's probably the coolest thing that I've ever got sent for the channel. So thank you for that. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a like. Please share it and let me know down in the comments if you have Witt Machine and Tool suppressors, and let me know what you think about them. Because the more that I use them, I am happily surprised with how effective they are. Again, especially for the size. Obviously, a bigger suppressor is going to be a more effective can. There's more volume. But for the size that these things come in at and the price that they come in at, it's kind of hard to beat. Make sure you subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical, and from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.